Have you ever looked really closely at a copy of the Quran? If you have, you might have noticed that the way it's written, it just looks a little different from modern Arabic. Well, that is completely intentional. Today, we're going to peel back the layers and uncover the hidden rules behind one of the most meticulously preserved texts in all of human history.
Okay, take a look at this. On one side, you've got a word in standard modern Arabic. On the other, that exact same word, but from the Quran's Uthmananic script. See those little differences? That's not a typo, and it's not just some old-fashioned quirk. It's actually a highly sophisticated system, a graphical code designed to preserve not just the words, but the exact way they're meant to be spoken. So that leads us to the big question, right? Why does the Quran script have its own special set of rules? Well, the answer is pretty amazing. It was designed to capture the sound of the original oral revelation. And to really understand how it does that, we need to look at the text through 3 different lenses, or what we'll call contexts.
To crack this code, you need the right toolkit. And for us, that toolkit is made up of 3 fundamental ideas that control how every single long vowel is treated. Once you get these 3 concepts, trust me, the whole system just clicks into place.
So here they are. First, you've got the rasm. That's just a fancy word for what's physically written on the page, the script itself. Second, there's wasl. This is all about how you pronounce a word when you're reading continuously, connecting it right into the next word. And third, we have waqf. This is how you pronounce that same word if you decide to pause or stop on it. So, the script, connecting, and pausing. Those are our 3 keys.
Now, here's where it gets really cool. When you combine these 3 contexts, something incredible is revealed. It turns out that any long vowel in the Quran can exist in one of 4 possible states. Think of it like a matrix of rules that dictates if a vowel is written, spoken, or both. This is the master key to the whole thing. And here it is. This table is basically the Rosetta Stone for the Quran script. Just look at the patterns. State 1 is simple. The vowel is written and you always say it, whether you're connecting or pausing. But look at state 2. It's written and you say it when you pause, but it goes completely silent when you read on. State 3 is what you might call a true silent letter. It's not written and you never say it. And then there's state 4, the rarest one. The vowel is absent from the script, but you actually pronounce it when you're reading on, only for it to vanish again if you pause. This is the hidden logic we've been looking for. Let's see it in action.
All right, let's start with the easy one, state 1. Take the phrase qala rabbana. The ah sound at the end of qala is written right there in the script. When you connect the words, you say qala rabbana. And if you were to just stop on that first word, you'd simply say qala. The letter's there and you hear it no matter what. Simple enough?
Now for stage 2, where things get way more interesting. Look at the word al-zununa. You can see that final alif is written down. If you were to pause on this word, you'd pronounce that final ah sound, al-zununa. But when you connect it to the next word, that written alif goes silent. You read it as al-zununa hunalika. The letter is there in the script as a guide for pausing, but it just disappears into thin air when you're reading smoothly.
So, this brings us to a huge rule of thumb. If a vowel is written in the script, you will always pronounce it when you pause on that word. Always. The written text is first and foremost a guide for how to pause. All the crazy variations and complexities, they almost always happen when you connect words together.
To really see how this all works, let's do a quick deep dive. A little case study on the most common long vowel, the alif, the letter that makes that ah sound. It has some really specific rules that just perfectly show this whole system in action.
Let's talk about a famous category that Quranic reciters all know about. It's called the 7 alifs. These are 7 very specific words found throughout the Quran where the final alif is a perfect example of that state 2 rule we just talked about. It's written down, you say it when you pause, but it becomes silent when you connect to the next word.
Here are a few of them. Take the word ana, which means I. If you stop on it, you say ana. But if it's in a sentence, that final alif just disappears. It goes silent. The same thing happens with lakinna, al-zununa, al-rasula, and a few others. The script is preserving a sound that literally only exists when you stop talking.
Okay, so we've established a master rule, right? If it's written, you pronounce it when you pause. But what happens when this incredibly precise system seems to break its own rule? Well, this is where you can see just how sophisticated this script really is.
Let's put these two side by side. On the left, you've got el-rasula,
one of our 7 alifs. The alif is written, and you say it when you pause, follows the rule perfectly. But now, look at the word thamuda, as it appears in 4 specific places in the Quran. The alif is clearly written there, but, and get this, in a direct exception to our master rule, this alif is silent even when you pause on the word. It's a deliberate exception, one that has been preserved by the script for 1400 years.
And of course, it works the other way too, which brings us back to state 3. Sometimes a letter is just gone from the script, and it's never pronounced. This usually happens for a specific grammatical reason, so the script perfectly reflects the grammar. And just to complete the picture, remember that super rare state 4? That's when a vowel is absent from the script, but is pronounced only when connecting words, like a little ghost vowel that only appears in fluid speech. It just shows you how deep this system goes.
So what is the Uthmanic scripts, really? It's not just some old-fashioned handwriting, it's a piece of precision technology. Its whole purpose is to be a blueprint that preserves every layer of pronunciation, every valid way of pausing, and the pure oral nature of the text. It's less like a book and more like a musical score for the human voice. So after going through all these rules and exceptions, you might be asking yourself, okay, but why does this matter? Why build a system that's so incredibly intricate?
Well, it all comes down to one thing: preservation. The Uthmanic script is a blueprint designed to lock in the exact sound of the original recitation. Every single rule, from the silent letters we saw to the ones that are just gone, is there to make sure that this oral tradition can be passed down perfectly across centuries and across the globe, all guided by a written text that accounts for every tiny nuance of the voice.
So the next time you see a text that looks a little unusual, maybe don't just write it off as old-fashioned. It's worth asking, is this just old writing, or is it a sophisticated technology telling a much deeper story? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other layers of meaning are hiding in plain sight in the scripts of our most ancient texts?